Hey there, I'm Mr. Black.
And I'm Mr. Green. And we're a couple of guys who met in a comic book store.
Together we host the Pint O' Comics podcast, where we invite listeners to join us to talk about movies, TV, comics, music, or just whatever.
Starting very soon, we'll be joining up with the fine folks at Forgotten Entertainment for a special limited series called On the QT, where we talk Tarantino.
Every week for 10 weeks, a guest will join us to chat about every Quentin Tarantino movie, from Reservoir Dogs to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So join us starting in May 2021.
On the QT is available wherever you download your podcasts and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Hello there, I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel.
We're three nerds that met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where each week we discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
From the sands of Tatooine to the levels of Coruscant, we cover it all. Yet another Star Wars podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easy...
Every episode we do is just a lead up to Forgotten Horror.
She clearly stirred her coffee with her glasses. It's like, what are you doing?
This is not jazz, dude. Oh, they eat it like a
They're
jam.
like motorboarding the nets.
Yeah. Keep it spooky, y'all. Hello, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're now entering the world of the macabre, where no one will save you as you bleed out all over the ground. Welcome to Forgotten Horror. Each episode will discuss a film that was forgotten by audiences. Perhaps they were too busy running from feral vampires in the snowy tundra. Maybe they accidentally drank a vial of slime and became Satan personified. Or maybe they're just having nightmares after reading a few good books. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you're not too scared of our podcast like Jessica, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us, or we'll find you. Our podcast is available on all platforms for your listening displeasure.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Week 3
Woo!
of 4 weeks of Forgotten Horror. Halloween is fast approaching as you listen to this. And obviously we are doing our second John Carpenter film that Mike picked. Mike picked 2 this month.
And they were both part of the Apocalypse trilogy, which I didn't even know existed.
Which you knew existed last time we talked about the Carpenter film, yes. Prince of Darkness. So this week we are doing In the Mouth of Madness, and let's get into that real quick. I'll give you the synopsis and then all those facts. When horror novelist Sutter Kane goes missing, insurance investigator John Trent scrutinizes the claim made by his publisher, Jackson Harglow, and endeavors to retrieve a yet-to-be-released manuscript and ascertain the writer's whereabouts. Accompanied by novelist's editor Linda Stiles and disturbed by nightmares from reading Kane's other novels, Trent makes an eerie nighttime trek to a supernatural town in New Hampshire. That's
actually a not bad synopsis for once.
Who wrote that?
I feel like we've had bad synopsises for like the last 10 weeks.
That's usually kind of like a staple of the show now. Bad synopsis that we rip on, but that actually was pretty good. All I do is type in the name of the movie and synopsis into Google, and I just read the first one that pops up.
Oh yeah, we stopped typing our own synopsis forever ago. We never even typed it.
We didn't type it. We were winging it, yeah, badly. So In the Mouth of Madness has a runtime of 95 minutes. It's rated R, production budget of $8 million. It was released on Friday, February 3rd, 1995. Oh, the dead months. Opening weekend, it did $3.4 million. Domestic and worldwide are the same, 8.9 million. So not really a hit. I don't want to know if it's a flop. It just kind of.
Yeah, I read somewhere on a note that it was a box office flop, but it kind of broke even.
The budget, even though I have 8 million, I did read one note that said 8 million to 15 million. So, but I didn't put it in because I don't know. I kept the 8 million. I was lazy. This was distributed by New Line Cinema. It came out on the 3rd of February up against The Jerky Boys. Oh, The Jerky Boys. So dumb. And then also Boys on the Side and limited release, The Secret of Rowan Inish. And the 10th of February, the week after, you had The Quick and the Dead, Billy Madison, and a limited release, Shallow Grave. That's actually a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. And then January 27th, which is the week before, you had Highlander, The Final Dimension. And then in a limited release, Before Sunrise and Miami Rhapsody. Final Dimension has none of the people in it, right? Is Lambert in it?
Isn't Final Destination number 2?
The Final Dimension? Highlander?
That's where you find out it was all aliens?
No. Highlander. It's Highlander 2 is Highlander 2, The Quickening.
Oh, that's right. It's The Quickening.
Yeah. No, this is
which is also bad.
Well, it's better than this.
I don't know if is 3 the one that stars the guy from the TV series?
I don't know.
I don't know if I've seen 3.
I don't know.
The TV series is all right.
Come on. Stop.
Did you ever see the TV
The movie,
series?
the first one is awesome.
Oh, I love the first Highlander.
I actually don't mind The Quickening. It has some. It's not great.
It's got okay fight
really
stuff.
Super sci-fi.
It's way too sci-fi.
But it's fine.
Did you want us to over-explain how the whole thing works? Don't worry, we got you.
Midichlorians. So this movie is directed by John Carpenter. We already did Prince of Darkness, which you heard about a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. He's also done Halloween and The Thing. He actually didn't write this movie. This is written by Michael DeLuca, who's mainly a producer. I guess he transitioned from writer to producer, but he did write Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and the story for Judge Dredd, the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd. But he has been nominated for 3 Oscars for movies that he's produced. So they were nominated for Best Pictures. This is The Social Network, Moneyball, and Captain Phillips. A cinematography by Gary Kibbe, who did Vampires, another one we did last year, Ghost of Mars and Virtuosity. He primarily does Carpenter films. He actually passed away 1 year ago, 2020. Composer is obviously Carpenter. He composes most of his stuff. And then Jim Lang, whose big credit is the Hey Arnold TV series and movie. And he was in the TV show Dinosaur Train. That's quite the transition to this movie, but whatever. Edited by Edward Orshilka, who's done The Running Man, a little Schwarzenegger classic, Child's Play 3, and 13 Ghosts, amongst others. And this is actually produced by Sandy King, who actually is now Sandy King Carpenter, for she is married to John Carpenter. She was actually, I was looking at her credits, and she was a huge script supervisor for a long time. She just was script supervisor, and she was script supervisor on Carpenter's films, and then obviously she became producer because obviously they got married. But she has also produced Village of the Damned, Vampires Again, and the upcoming, I don't know if it's a movie or a TV series of The Manor, which is a horror series or horror movie. I want to say movie, but that's her next one, The Manor. That is not a Carpenter film, so she's off on her own.
All right.
Sam Neill plays John Trent. You may know Sam Neill from movies called Jurassic Park. He's also in Dead Calm and The Final Conflict, which is really The Omen 3, but they renamed it.
Right. I didn't realize he was in that one. I've never seen The Omen 3. Just wanted to.
I've seen him. He's like in the office. He's like the president.
That's kind of. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but
that was the final plan. That was the plan.
Oh, that was
what he was destined for greatness. Julie Carmen as Linda Stiles, who basically he just calls her Stiles the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the movie Gloria, The Milagro Beanfield War, and Fright Night Part 2. Jürgen Prochnow as Sutter Kane, the writer, who is most probably Stephen King. He's in Das Boot. He's in the 1984 Dune, also in Beverly Hills Cop 2, and The English Patient. David Warner plays Dr. Wren. David Warner is actually in the first Omen. So we have 2 people in the Omen series in this movie. He's also in Tron, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. That's for right. Mike. He's also in Star Trek 5.
Yes, he is. He plays.
So he played 2 different characters in the movies.
But he's an alien, I believe.
Okay, just letting you know. I didn't know
and he's in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
Nobody cares about that.
Everyone.
Nobody cares.
He creates Toka and Razor.
In this podcast, nobody cares. You take that over to Pena Comics, okay? He's also in Mary Poppins Returns. John Glover as Saperstein, who's not even in this movie that long. He's in the TV show Smallville. That's probably where a lot of people know him. I think me and Mike know him from the TV show Brimstone.
That's right. It's the devil. Even though I love Smallville, every time he pops up, I go, it's the devil. I don't know why, because he was on Smallville for like 20 years.
Because you're a nerd. He's also in Scrooge in the movie.
Well, Brimstone was okay.
Brimstone had a great premise.
Yes.
It just did not succeed in execution of that premise. and Fox didn't give it enough time. Bernie Casey as Robinson. Bernie Casey, if you look familiar, you've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure because he's the principal. It's always what I remember. He's also in Revenge of the Nerds and Never Say Never Again. That's for you. He passed away in 2017. Peter Jason is returning from Prince of Darkness to play Mr. Paul. I'm just putting him in there because he's from Prince of Darkness.
He's actually in a lot of Carpenter.
Yeah, we talked about that Prince of Darkness episode. A lot of callbacks to that episode already. Charlton Heston as Jackson Harglow. He is, I hope you would know who Charlton Heston is, but he won an Oscar for his role in Ben-Hur. He was also in The Ten Commandments, Soylent Green, but obviously more importantly, he's in Wayne's World 2. Frances Bay as Mrs. Pickman. She's in Blue Velvet. Arachnophobia, which is where I remember. And of course, Happy Gilmore. Wilhelm von Homburg plays Simon. The only reason I have his credit in there is because he plays Vigo in Ghostbusters 2.
Vigo, you bad little monkey.
He's also in Die Hard. And did you notice the other cameo in this? Not the cameo, but he had a part. Young Anakin Skywalker.
Hayden Christensen plays the paper boy.
Yeah, he's at the end playing the paper boy.
One of my notes is punch him in the face. It's Darth Vader.
Well, soon to be, yes, of course. All right, so yeah, those are the facts. Those are the credits. I'll give you a couple more. This production was shot from August to October of 1993. It was shot in Canada exclusively. Originally, Tony Randell from Hellbound Hellraiser 2 was attached to direct, and he dropped. Then Mary Lambert from Pet Sematary was attached to direct, and she dropped out. And then you have John Carpenter stepping in.
Which he was originally offered and also dropped out.
Of course.
That's why I find it strange that this is part of his Apocalypse trilogy. When this is the other two, did he write the thing or just direct the thing?
It's an adaptation. So he wrote the adaptation. Yeah, no.
And this one he didn't have any hand in writing. He just directed.
Well, he might have
want to do it.
He might have done changes, but yeah,
maybe.
No.
I've
always say it's his self-professed Apocalypse trilogy. Like he's saying.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah.
The three movies, they're about almost the end of time, a little bit. Like
kind of.
I mean, the thing is if that thing escapes.
Right. It's very self-contained.
Yeah.
These two movies, I do get, now that I've seen In the Mouth of Madness, I do get how with Prince of Darkness and this, it really is about, the end.
It's a foreboding of especially In the Mouth of Madness. Prince of Darkness is like, it ends and you're like, you don't really know what to make of when she appears at the end.
That it could still happen again.
Yeah,
but
you don't really understand what it is but yeah, it's definitely, that's what he's saying. Does the asylum building look familiar to you?
Because it's a water treatment plant that was used in a bunch of other movies.
Well, the last movie was using was Undercover Brother.
Which I love that movie.
That movie's fantastic. But since 9/11, they cut that down. They said, no, we're not allowing people in here. So yeah, I thought when it first came out, I'm like, this looks awfully familiar, and I hope it's in the notes, and it was. So, all right, where do you want to start off? But this is basically Stephen King. But would it have been better if it was Stephen King?
No, because I like that they mentioned Stephen King because it helps place it in the real world.
Well, they're good friends.
Yeah, Carpenter and King, which is cool, which I didn't know.
Yeah, so Sutter Kane is based on Stephen King.
He's like Stephen King if Stephen King wrote more Lovecraftian type things.
I guess, yeah. This is definitely heavy on H.P. Lovecraft. I've read some H.P. Lovecraft, but not enough to sit here and tell you what the references were. But there are tons of movie references. There are tons of references in this movie to Lovecraft stories and
a lot of quotes lifted directly or rewritten a little bit.
Even like the stuff where they're reading from the books, they're reading passages from the Sutter Kane novels are actually just passages from Lovecraft books. So if you are somebody who is a big time fan of H.P. Lovecraft, this is probably a movie that you would really dig because it's all over there.
Yeah, it's super Lovecraftian. Yeah.
You hadn't seen this?
I've never seen this before. Okay. I don't remember what movie I watched, but this was a trailer attached to it. And I thought it was always a really interesting concept. Mm-hmm. But obviously this came out, this
is 95.
5, so I was 8. My parents aren't going to let me watch this movie.
Why not?
I actually don't know why. Because
I'll tell you why. Because they don't want to
scarier movies.
They don't want to deal with the nightmares that you're going to have. Or they probably didn't want to watch it.
They might not have wanted to watch it.
Yeah, there you go.
So I had never seen this before. I remember the trailer that seemed like an interesting concept. And when I didn't realize it was John Carpenter, but while researching another movie, this popped up on a recommended thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this movie existing. And that's why I put it on the list, not realizing that Prince of Darkness and this had the same, director.
Right. Speaking of Carpenter, one of the things that we always talk about, we talked about with vampires, and I think we talked about with Prince of Darkness, like he has his own style.
Right. Yep.
And his style is not very, it is, I wouldn't say it's the high end of stylistic. It's a style, but it's almost like it just presents what's happening. We talk about how it's like, like it just presents what's going on. Some stuff there's some jump scares in this. Some stuff, there were some moments in the movie where I thought I wanted a little bit more. And
I have the, yeah.
So the one scene I'm going to talk about is the scene when the agent comes out of I guess it's the bookstore, comes out of somewhere with the axe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Trent and the guy he's working for are sitting at a table, and there's a big window that's in behind them, and you see the street. And as they're talking, you see the agent, he's crazed. He comes out with an axe. And essentially what happens is the action is he walks across the street, stands there staring at them through the window. They do not notice him. And then he takes the axe and he hits the window, crashes the window, and he yells at Trent. Like, so when that's the scene, then he gets shot.
Yeah.
But in that scene it's a nice scene, but the problem is he cuts away, and I want the whole thing in the one shot.
Yep.
That's more tense.
That would be way more tense.
Him walking over, him doing all that, them talking, and you see it's coming, and they are unaware of it. Now, mind you, I can't really lay it at the feet of Carpenter, because that might be something that maybe they just couldn't get it at the time. Maybe the shot wouldn't work, whatever. It could be something technical, but I thought that would have been an awesome way to shoot that scene in one shot.
I had the exact same note, which is why isn't this one shot?
Yeah.
That would have been way better. You know who does that well is in Shaun of the Dead. A lot of the stuff at the beginning of Shaun of the Dead, those kind of like, we're having a conversation,
right?
The zombies are happening behind us. It's played for a laugh, but it's still really kind of uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have worked so well in this movie, because this movie is all about being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. There's definitely a foreboding feeling in this movie. What's funny, and I don't want to keep comparing the two movies, but in Prince of Darkness, there was always that undertone of music, of tone. In the movie.
This didn't really have that.
Yeah. In Prince of Darkness, the tones in the movie it was like leading you down the hole of despair.
Yeah.
They didn't have that here. And
that's why I was surprised at the end when John Carpenter was still listed as music. I was like, okay. This is more budget. Did this feel more like a studio movie to you, though?
Well, it had more money than Prince of Darkness at $8 million.
I'm wondering if they had more of a hand in how John Carpenter had to make this film.
Well, maybe he was a gun for hire here because he came in to direct.
Yeah,
I mean, but it's produced by, I don't know if they're married at this point, but it's produced by the woman that he's going to marry, or at least involved with. Sure. So I would assume he had the leeway and the luxury to do what he needed to do.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's probably, there's probably like, maybe I'd love to sit down, not with him, but well, yeah, sure. I'd love to sit down with anybody and just kind of talk about like what went into making the movie, because, I don't think that this movie is definitely solid in its storytelling. I think there's some stuff that I was just, I don't know. I wasn't like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible. It wasn't anything like that. I just felt like sometimes I was missing something. Like or maybe I wanted more. I don't know.
I wanted a lot more.
Okay.
Well, go
ahead.
I fucking love this movie.
Okay.
I watched it. I was like, this movie is great. It's got a lot of Lovecraftian type stuff. It's got a lot of Evil Dead type stuff where like you can literally do anything because you're just writing this universe into existence. But I also agree that there's a lot that they kind of leave off the table that they could have gone further with, because it's almost psychological in a way, horror. And so I feel like you could have gone a little longer. You could have gone to maybe closer to 2 hours.
A longer film, yeah.
So you actually tell the story. And I feel like they cut a lot of stuff short in terms of building up to like being really interested in something and then cutting it down and not really going far enough.
Right.
Like you get this Lovecraftian horror. You get like, I don't know if you felt the same way. The motivations of the creatures, the motivation of these, obviously it's like Cthulhu myth and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get their motivation other than they want to end humanity, but you don't get why. Do they want to take over? Do they just want to destroy people?
I think isn't it always that when the earth was dark, they always were here, and then the light came and they were ushered
cast
away.
out. Yeah,
that's always really
But like that
theme.
because you kind of know Lovecraftian stuff.
Gotcha.
I feel like the general audience doesn't know that, and even if you're reintroducing this world, that's not technically H.P. Lovecraft.
I got you.
But it is. Let me know that in a bit of a way. I feel like the creatures really just don't have a motivation.
Yeah.
Other than being creatures.
See, I think that in the days of world building that happens here, where you have to watch 30 other movies to understand what's going on here. I think if you redid this movie, you don't have to. But if you redid this movie, I think somebody like Stephen King, somebody that is a well-known author, and therefore all these characters and all these references in the movie, if you are referencing other stories, kind of like the Hulu show did with Castle Rock,
Right.
and you're referencing his stories, I think that's an added element to it where you actually have, like, people will go and be like, oh crap, that's from this book. And it kind of builds the mythos of the movie. Because this is somebody who we are just meeting in this movie, Sutter Kane, you're left to just whatever's in the movie you have to believe kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, something like, oddly enough, the Goosebumps movie where R.L. Stine is real.
Yeah.
If they did that, like Castle Rock, I would have liked infinitely better, which Castle Rock's not bad. But if they had Stephen King in there, like you said, and all of Stephen King stuff came to life, even if Stephen King wasn't the main character and he was kind of just like, oh shit, what have I done? I think that would be really interesting.
I was really annoyed that I'm going to tangent. I was really annoyed that they canceled Castle Rock. The first season was okay, but the second season they actually did Salem's Lot, which I really liked.
Right.
And I thought that they were really like, okay, they're kind of digging into it now. And then they didn't get a third season. So that kind of bummed me out. But yes, I back to this. Yes. It's just like, how about this? I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you find out that John Trent is a creation of Sutter Kane. So he wrote him into existence. That's how Trent is existing. That's
right.
Okay. And he also wrote Styles into existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then at some point when Trent goes back to Harglow's office, the publisher, which is played by Charlton Heston, and he's like, you keep mentioning this Styles woman like she worked for me. Like he suddenly doesn't remember her.
Right.
Okay. But shouldn't he also not know Trent?
Trent's still part of the story.
Okay. So they're all part of the story.
He wrote Styles out. Yeah.
Did he write Harglow out? Like, can he write Harglow out?
That I don't know. I don't know how much control he has over people, if they were real or not.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Although it does make sense. Trent's like this perfect insurance agent.
Freelance insurance investigator.
Yeah. So he's kind of like this fake kind of character to begin with.
Yeah. I was like, that's a nice job.
I'm not sure if you actually if he's actually in control of the real in terms of people and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, and maybe we're not supposed to know any of that stuff. Maybe it's just supposed to be like, I don't know if the filmmakers or the writers have an answer to every question that I would have.
Right.
Which is probably, they don't need to.
No, that's what I love about this type of story. That Evil Deadness, open-endedness of it. It doesn't need to be explained. All the powers anyway.
Right. Can you explain why she stirs her coffee cup with her glasses?
No, when does she do that?
They don't show it, but what ends up happening, she's talking when Styles is first talking to Trent, she takes off her glasses and then she takes the thing and she puts it, you can see that she's putting it in her coffee. And then if you look from the back shot, because they have a shot from over her shoulder, kind of behind her, she's like, you can see her arm moving. And then she comes back and she comes into the shot. The next shot, she like licked them or she put them next to me. So she clearly stirred her coffee with her glasses. And I was like, what are you doing?
I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah. So I was just like, all right. Ugh. Did you like the puzzle pieces of the book cover being put together?
I did kind of like that.
Why they got to rip off Puzzle Maker song?
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh, season 3 of Puzzle Maker Son, that's going to happen.
I'm just that's a joke. So we did a web series, and in Puzzle Maker Son, the web series, the main character finds like paintings and he puts them together as an outline. I can't remember what the outline of. Was it a map? It was like it was a map of a wooded area, like a park. Right?
It was a map of the park. That's how you found the locker.
So yeah,
you wrote it.
And I don't remember. I did it. I was the guy playing the guy
doing it.
But I couldn't tell you. But anyways, but obviously that was way after this movie. So no, I probably ripped him off unknowingly. I don't even know where I got. I want to say it wasn't from this movie, but I know I got the idea from somewhere. So it might have been this movie. I just don't know.
But yeah, I did like that because the whole time I'm looking at the poster going, those red lines are really weird.
Yeah.
And then he puts it together. I'm like, oh, okay.
The poster that's in the movie.
Right, because you see it big on the poster on the wall when he's trying to look through what the other side of the poster is.
Why didn't they use the poster for the movie? Like, why did they give us the poster with the book?
The art poster would have been way better. Yeah,
like I don't understand if you're going to go full meta and you have him going to watch his own movie, which he's listed on the credits, and everyone in the credits of the movie is because they adapt because the book that Kane is writing is called In the Mouth of Madness. And,
Right.
and when everyone reads it, they're going to go crazy. And then they're adapting it into a movie. So when everyone watches it, they'll go crazy as
Right.
well. And he goes to the movie to watch himself in the movie. And the posters basically.
Yeah, other than the actors,
Yeah.
all the cast, all the crew is the exact.
Yeah.
John
So like,
Carpenter
why didn't you
directed
just
it and
use
all
that poster for the movie itself? I don't
Some
get
marketing
that.
guy was like, "Oh, that's too old school. We got to go like 90s."
I don't like the poster
No,
that
the poster
they
is
use.
really 90s.
Yeah.
It's really just kind of like a photoshopped head getting
Yeah.
stretched into a book.
It's really not good. No, I'm not a fan. I mean, maybe that was a New Line thing. Like, this is what we want.
It is very like 13 Ghosts kind of New Line,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't reflect the tone of the movie, which I love the opening of the film.
Okay.
I thought the opening was really good. I don't usually like those flashbacks, but I like that the opening of the film almost had some comedy in it.
When he's being put away.
When he's being put away, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I'm kind of into this.
Yeah.
When usually, like I said, I don't like those flashbacks, but I like, sorry about the balls. It was just a lucky shot. And, they play the Carpenters, the same song that's in Room 1408.
Yep.
And he goes, oh God, not the Carpenters. And he's got like a nice, like sarcastic attitude to the doctor as he's talking to him.
Right. And then he proceeds to draw crosses all over the wall.
Yeah, I didn't get that because
Yeah.
it didn't seem like that was ever established as something that was going to protect anybody.
Well, that was never set up in the book or never set up like the only way. He never talks to anybody in the movie. There's nobody in the movie that knows what's going on or can help with it at all. It's
Right.
basically just,
This is happening.
yeah,
and
you're screwed.
You're just
yeah.
going to live with it.
Mhm.
And then he's got crosses like they're supposed to protect him.
Yeah. So, I mean, but again, like I said, I don't really think that a lot of these questions are going to get answers, and they don't necessarily
Need
to have answers.
Right.
I think that's just, it is what it is kind of thing. Although he did read all those books fast. He said he read all 6 books. I read your books.
I thought the same thing. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's a lot of books. How long does this take?
Exactly. Like, but then then they have the book going back to, we're talking about time when he's talking to Harglow, and the whole scene where I was talking about with, he doesn't know who Styles is, Heston's character. And he goes, you handed me this, the movie's is coming out this weekend. You gave me the
7
script
months ago.
Yeah. So it's like, so time has passed. And I was
That's what I don't get. So you're allowing this guy to take up your time to tell you a story he probably told you 7 months ago?
yeah.
That I didn't get.
There's just time is a little wonky. Plus that's an awfully fast time to adapt the film, but apparently
get the film going. Yeah.
Whatever.
Unless the script was already.
I don't.
Although if the movie script was done, then your book is pretty much.
Well,
you
once
don't
the
need
book's
book.
out, Kane rips himself apart like a book and goes, and I guess he's
Originally, I guess the whole town was supposed to get sucked in.
Yes.
And it was too costly. So
Right.
special effects guy was
But
just
the-
like, what if he tears himself as a book?
but the town's not real.
Right.
Yeah, so the town doesn't exist. They all just exist because Kane wrote them.
Kane wrote this town into
Right.
existence. Right.
And then he didn't realize that. No, he didn't write them. He was being
The dark
controlled
Lords or
by the
whatever.
darkness. Yeah, by the darkness.
Which is fine. And it does make sense because as they're driving to Hobbs End, they can't find it. And it's not until she gets, Styles basically teleports there.
Yeah,
I thought that was great. I love that whole sequence. I thought that would make an interesting movie in
What?
and of itself.
That being in the town.
Just being lost on the crossroads.
Gotcha.
And all this weird stuff happening.
Mhm.
But I like the old man, the kid that comes by and they won't let him leave. I thought that was a really cool sequence and stuff like that. But I did like that because when he tears himself open and the doors don't bust open, I was like, oh, that's such a cop out. They just don't want to show the monsters. I was like, those cheap bastards. And then he looks through the hole and still no monsters. I was like, oh, come on. And then they do show the monsters and I was very happy.
Those monsters were it took 30 people to operate them. They're on they're one big giant special effect. They're on like a big thing with wheels, like a car.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 monsters and then a line of 30 of them or something like
and
that.
Then, and they're being pushed by a crank. And so it was like a giant just thing coming at Sam Neill's character.
All for like 5 seconds of screen time.
I know they weren't on it that long. It's probably because of their prosthetics and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, too much scrutiny. That probably doesn't hold up.
Even the Mrs. Pickman monster, when she comes out, she's got all the hands and she's chopping off her husband's arm. That's actually a miniature. It was originally a guy in a suit, but I guess Carpenter didn't like the way it looked, so they opted to do a miniature.
Oh, the miniature looked great.
It looked just like
It was super
Stuff in
cheesy.
the thing.
It
Yeah.
looked like
of course.
The thing. It looked like Henrietta from Evil Dead 2. It was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm okay with this. I really liked Mrs. Pickman. I thought she was really interesting. I thought that whole scene in the hotel was very David Lynch.
The first time, or just
The first time, up until she becomes the big monster,
yeah.
showing, the painting that kind of moves and, she's being very odd. I thought that was all very David Lynchy, very Twin Peaks. Because Twin Peaks, a lot of it takes place at the hotel,
right,
where strange things also happen. And then she's got, you pan down and she's got her naked husband chained to her ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they kind of explain that she's now a monster.
Right.
And he's forced to do that. But I mean, the difference is David Lynch wouldn't explain that. The lash out would be naked guy chained to her ankle, and that would be all you get. But I thought that was really interesting and kind of funny when he's obviously moaning and she's kicking him, even though Sam Neill's right there, Trent's right there.
And Trent says that in the book she murders her husband, right?
Yes.
Because I don't think in the book everyone becomes a monster, but in the town, everybody is devolving into monsters.
Right, because the devolving into monsters things wasn't written in any of his older books.
Right.
That was in The Mouth of Madness, which only Styles had read some of.
Right.
And so that's why he's like, well, that never happened. That they never ever turned into monsters. There were no children in the other book. And she's like, well, you didn't read the new book.
Yeah. Did you like Julie Carmen?
I mean, I think she played the role well, but I think that it I don't know if it's John Carpenter's direction or her choices. She goes off the deep end really quick, which I would have liked a little bit more. Like, she obviously loves Sutter Kane, obviously has some kind of obsession with him, loves his books at the very least. But she also seems practical, smart, and intelligent. That's the whole thing. She's supposed to be like a yin and yang to Trent. And then as soon as they get into town, she just loses it immediately. I would have liked a slower, de-evolution of her lose. Because she says when she gets back from making out with Sutter Kane and his guado on the back of his head.
Kane's got a guado, yeah.
That she's losing herself. But I think she has lost herself a long time ago.
Well, I guess the argument could be made that she was written that way.
Yes. Which is why I don't think it's her fault that she kind of overacts and goes a little too crazy too quick.
Yeah. I mean, she's the only, I'm not going to count Mrs. Pickman, but she's the only female in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, I don't know.
I don't know if it's a female thing so much as being the only other person thing.
I don't know. There's really not a lot for her to do. Like, I had seen this movie. I don't know if I saw it in theaters or I saw it at home. Like on a movie night or something. I might have saw it at a movie night. I remember just kind of like, I was okay. I didn't really understand a lot of it. I wasn't digging it. But I did not remember she went with him to the town. I remember all his stuff. I always remember the stuff in the asylum, but I never remembered her going with him to the town. So that was all kind of new for me. One of the things I was thinking about with Sutter Kane and how he's writing all these characters, like, what if he was not a good writer? Like, what if
he's just a crappy
like
writer?
John Candy in Delirious, where he's just like a writing, like he's like bad things happening, and they're just like, they don't make any sense. Like, I was just wondering, like, what if he's not good?
The monsters wouldn't have picked him if he wasn't any good.
Well, they're writing through him. So
you don't really know how much power he has.
Yeah.
Are they just telling him the story and he's elevating it, or is he or just a shit writer?
Yeah, but see, like, you don't get, so they see when they go to the church and they have the kid in there and they're like, and I know that's a scene from one of his books, but you don't really know that because you just know it. You actually find out about that maybe 5 minutes ago in the movie. You know what I mean? So it really doesn't hold a lot of emotional weight, I guess. I don't know.
I think that whole thing is supposed to be Trent not caring. It seems very staged. It seems very hokey. And it seems very much like a scene from another movie on purpose to make it seem like, all right, Trent's got a little bit of a point there.
Right. So that's for the audience to start
scouting it as
Trent.
well. Yeah.
Okay.
Because after all the stuff you see on the crossroads, you start to side with Styles a little bit more. But then during that, it's kind of like, that's kind of hokey.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now you're back to, okay, something's going on.
Right.
I mean, you know something's going on, like the kids with the kind of diseased faces that are transforming.
Right.
The dog that they eat the dog's leg.
Well, they tell you that the kids are infected first.
Yeah.
So that would tell you that the kids are going to turn into the monsters first, but we never see them.
We never see the kids
turn into monsters. We see Mrs. Pickman, but we never see the kids. I'm just saying.
I got you. Carpenter's probably like, I don't want to deal with the kids.
Well, yeah, obviously they probably were like, or like at least show like monsters running around. So they're like, okay, those must be the kids.
Yeah. A little more tentacle beasts. Yeah. You only get the one in the greenhouse looking at Trent. And that's the only monster outside of the stuff coming out of the wall.
But that's based on when he says, when they first get to the inn, he talks about in the book how everyone said there was a creature growing out of there with vines and stuff like that. And that's what that's supposed to be, I guess. Like that's what that's supposed to be referencing.
Yeah. But also back to your point about the writer, about Sutter Kane, he's all in on these monsters taking over.
Yes.
So that tells me he was a bad writer. That's his deal with the devil. Actually, thinking about it,
that he
will make you the most famous writer. We'll make you a great writer.
But you're gonna bring the
you're gonna usher in the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. But if he said he didn't know, I didn't even. Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. That makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. So you say that you love this film.
I do. I'm agreeing with all the holes you're pointing in.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I can love a film that's not good.
I'm not attacking it.
Yeah.
I was about to tell you because we talked about with the Prince of Darkness. Which I actually like better than this, but we talked about placing this within Carpenter's filmography and removing The Thing and Halloween, removing the obvious classics. Like if you really like this film, so this is pretty high for you.
This would be pretty high for me on the.
So do you like this better than Big Trouble in Little China? I'm not going to count The Thing and Halloween; those are perfect.
Yeah, I think I like this better than Big Trouble in Little China.
You didn't like Prince of Darkness as much as I did, so
no, but I did like Prince of Darkness.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
I know your answer is going to be yes. So I'm trying to figure out other Carpenter films. Now, Vampires, we both have
Vampires I like, but has a lot of issues. Yeah. Vampires cheesy fun, but I don't love it.
I can't.
Escape from New York is good.
Better than this. Or you like it better than this? I shouldn't say, is it better? Do you prefer
Escape from New York is better than In the Mouth of Madness.
You prefer it better.
I prefer In the Mouth of Madness.
What about Escape from LA? Wait, hold on.
I don't like.
You prefer In the Mouth of Madness more than Escape from New York?
Yes, but I'm saying Escape from New York is a better movie.
Sure.
Yeah, Escape from LA is going to be way down on my.
You don't
list.
like Snake Plissken surfing?
It's like one of the only things I remember. That and Plastic Surgery, Bruce Campbell.
I remember that. I also remember the basketball scene.
I don't remember the basketball scene.
He has to make baskets, make a certain amount of baskets within a lot of time, or someone's gonna blow up or get shot. I can't remember where it is.
I gotta watch.
And
this
the last
movie
one he makes, he has to throw a long full court, and he squishes it.
It sounds so bad. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty high up on my list. Like you say, They Live is more style. It's more chew bubble. Take names.
They Live has a lot of great lines and has a lot of great moments, and it's Roddy Piper. So people, I know that a lot of people who dig wrestling dig that movie because of Piper, which is fine. But that's what has going for it.
I don't love Mouth of Madness better than Starman. Which I keep forgetting is a John Carpenter movie.
I haven't seen Starman in forever. That I would need a refresher on that.
Well, good thing because it's coming up.
What did we put on the list?
We did put it on the list. Yeah.
Crap.
Because we talked about it like 8 times. But yeah, I also haven't seen Starman since I was a kid, but I think I like Starman better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, In the Mouth of Madness I think is really good. I really enjoy those kind of horror films, which I've talked about before, like Evil Dead, where anything can happen. You're not constrained by anything. Your universe is this writer writing this evil into existence. And I like when, because we talk about it all the time, story holes, or even in this movie, you'd like more stuff to be explained, but we don't need the monsters to really be explained because the power is all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Evil Dead, the same thing with good horror or Prince of Darkness. You can't tell me what this evil dimension being extra thing does. So it can do anything. We can make this a slasher film. We can make this a monster film. We can make this gross.
You're talking about this film.
This film, Prince of Darkness, Evil Dead, those kind of films.
Well, Prince of Darkness, they tell you what it is. They don't really tell you here.
Oh yeah, it's an but I mean, in terms of the evil, what it can do, what its powers are.
Oh, okay. So I got you.
Okay.
Yep.
It's something that's unworldly. I can believe anything that happens. The people becoming slasher monsters or anything.
You're not setting up rules that you're going to end up breaking.
Yes.
Right. I got you.
Because so many horror movies set up rules that they break.
Well, I think
over and over.
To be fair, they do that, but those are usually broken in the sequels because they didn't realize that the movie was going to be popular.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I hear you.
This way, you're good. You've cleared your plate. You don't need to.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy that. And also, you don't know what to expect next. It can be something as simple as The Nightmare where, by the way, did I tell you my favorite color is blue? And everything is blue, which, by the way, one day I want to watch this again because I guess in every close-up, the character's eyes are blue.
Well, they're also blue, but they're also split, and the pupils are split into two pupils together. That the agent had that. Someone else had that, but I don't know if everybody had the split pupil eyes.
I think people were getting there because everyone else's eyes were getting that brightness, and I think that's how it starts to split.
But speaking of the agent, it's like he murdered his entire family, and like it was like said as an afterthought. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was his agent. You know, like
right.
It was a little, and he was coming out of a bookstore. It's like, why? So he murdered his family and then went to the next bookstore, or is he coming out of the apartment? Like I didn't get that whole thing.
He comes out of the bookstore, to make an entrance to probably Trent, and
right, of course,
but also because he probably had a little bit left in him to say like, hey, stop reading these books. I'm going crazy.
Yeah,
a lot like Trent did at the end when he kills that one kid that was reading the book, turning into one of the monsters.
Oh, right.
So you read the book? Oh, yeah, all the way to the end? Also, you're not going to be surprised about this. And he hacks him right in the head. What I think is interesting is in the promotional stills for the movie, when Trent's in the movie theater, there's a shot of Styles leaning over him and from the back row with the split eyes.
Oh,
and
really?
I wonder if that was an end that they didn't end up using.
Maybe they had her in there,
because this just cuts with him going crazy and like laughing at his own film.
Yeah. Well, I also read that they said he's laughing and then he's what was the note? That he's sad, or shoot, I can't remember the note, but like he's in the movie he's laughing, but the note I read had him doing something else. I was like, that's not, he was just laughing. He didn't. Yeah.
I wonder if there's an alternate version, although I didn't see anything in the alternate, like any kind of alternate versions that I could look up of deleted scenes.
I don't know.
I would really like to get, I know they just put out a Blu-ray not long ago.
Well,
so I'd like to see if there's any featurettes or anything.
Well, it's been re-released a couple times, but more recently it was it's the Shout Factory did one in 2018. So yeah, no, that's out there. But I know they did a couple beforehand. I think most of Carpenter's films get a cult following,
which,
so like
because this one did as well.
Yeah,
later on.
yeah, because it's funny because I think Carpenter films probably aren't meant for the theaters. They're probably not meant for people to rush out to the theater to see. You know, they're probably meant for at home in the dark at night. You know, make a double feature kind of thing. So
right.
They're probably meant for that. He's probably perfect for streaming, which I don't understand why none of these streamers have signed him on.
Well, the thing is, I don't ever find Carpenter films. I mean, the thing I guess back then was like crazy scary because the monsters were awful. Mm-hmm. But I don't find Carpenter films scary so much as super just kind of like creepy and unnerving kind of in there. Like they're a good ghost story. They're a good scary story to tell.
See, I think you've seen The Thing many, many times. That's why
I'm saying if I had seen The Thing back then,
you've never seen it. You put it on this TV. Find somebody that's never seen it.
Right.
Hey, let's watch The Thing. Lower the lights. Just put the thing on and just sit there and don't say anything and just watch. They'd be terrified because it's unnerving. It's terrifying because especially when they're trying to figure out whose blood's who.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's doing the copper wire and you know when it's coming because the hand is fake and you see that the hand is fake and you're like, here it comes. But back then you didn't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think that's great. I also think that a story like In the Mouth of Madness, I feel like with the mass hysteria and stuff like that, works better nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it plays better now. And some movie reviewer did say that if In the Mouth of Madness came out today in the 2010s or 2020s, it would have done way better because the horror is closer to what we kind of write today.
Well, that's because that's what people are feeling.
This is the writer director of Midsommar and Hereditary's favorite movie.
Oh, I can imagine. What was the movie? Was it Cell? That King, the book he wrote, where the cell phones were making everybody crazy.
Yeah,
that's like that. This is like that, like
sure,
that hysteria type film. Like I'm trying to think of other hysteria films, but yeah, the Cell is it's just Cell. I don't think it's the Cell. It's Cell.
It's Cell because the Cell is the one with Jennifer Lopez.
And when they cut the horse in different pieces. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so that's like that. This is like that kind of mess there. But even that in Cell had more action to it. You know?
Oh yeah, that was less of a horror movie.
Yeah. This movie, there's some stuff in it, but I think I almost kind of either wanted to go one way or the other, either go more action or just go more, creep, more like Midsommar, more like just kind of like illusions and more stuff. It would have to be longer. It would have to be 2.5 hours and have to be one of those type of horror films.
Well, we're only at 90 something minutes. I think you could have gone closer to 2 and it would have been because it's a slow burn kind of not psychological horror, but it's kind of an in your head kind of mental terror, I guess.
But I don't think I would recommend this movie to people who don't like horror films. Like if somebody likes horror, because I just don't think I don't think they'd be into it. I don't think they'd dig it.
I think I would agree, but I would also say that I think people that like horror novels might like this book because my father hates horror movies. He's not a big horror movie guy, but he loves horror books. He loves Stephen King. He loves Dean Koontz. He loves a couple of other authors that he reads all the time. And I think he'd really like this movie because this is closer to that kind of horror that you would read in books and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that's better.
So you're saying you're going to suggest it to him when you see him next?
Oh yeah, and he won't watch it, but I'm going to suggest it to him.
That's a father-son issue that we don't need to dive into in this episode. This is about movies. Well, as long as we're speaking of fathers, I think my dad was big into horror films. He'd watch horror films all the time. I'm sure he's seen this film, and he'd probably be like, "It's all right." Yeah, like I said, that makes sense too. Horror people like horror books or horror movies, but that's about it. I wouldn't be like, "Hey, you seen any good movies?" I'd be like, "Hey, check this out."
I think I'd recommend this to other people that just kind of like movies or like, you know, if they like movies like or TV shows like The X-Files, or if they watched Castle Rock and stuff like that. I think they might like this. But yeah, people that like straight up horror or even other John Carpenter things, this is not it's not super John Carpenter-y. You know what I mean?
Right.
In terms of like some of the creatures and some like, you get that John Carpenter weird rock music.
Yeah,
like,
that's at the end when he gets into the actual ambulance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get it a little bit in that nightmares that he's having that cop, but a lot of it is different than most John Carpenter movies in a way.
I mean, his style's still there. The Carpenter style's there, and like
some of the Carpenter style. But
I think the biggest difference, I not visually, because visually I can tell it's a Carpenter movie. The biggest difference for me, and maybe in the dialogue too, because I'm thinking of Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness had a lot of heady conversations going on.
Oh, very much. Yes. That was one of the best parts of Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. Granted, it was about, religion and the mythology of what they're talking about, and Satan and Satan's son and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this didn't really have a lot of that. So I'm wondering if Carpenter actually wrote this movie. I'm wondering if the dialogue would have been a little bit more in that vein, not as
more philosophical.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe there would have been more. Yeah.
I mean, you definitely get those philosophical kind of conversations in like The Thing and Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
You don't really get them in like Halloween or Escape from New York.
Well, no, you're not going to get them there.
Assault on Precinct 13 or Ghost of Mars.
No,
that's down on the list.
Well, I didn't mention it. So. No, that's all. I mean, yeah. Well, why do you think it's forgotten?
I think it's out of its time. Like I said, I think if it came out again today, not only in terms of the themes of the mass hysteria and the end of the end times through fear and stuff like that, but also in terms of the H.P. Lovecraft bend, I feel like he's experiencing a resurgence in terms of that Lovecraftian style of horror, in terms of the Cthulhu myth and all that kind of stuff, even though he was obviously a racist, terrible asshole. That creature, that mythos he created is very interesting and good, which is one of the things that the Lovecraft County tried to deal with and reconcile.
Is that the HBO
That's
show?
the HBO show, which is very good. I highly recommend
But they canceled it, right?
It really is. It tells the story after one season.
Okay.
So I think they just couldn't figure out a good second season. So they said, let's stop it here.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. But I think that's coming back into vogue, and I think it would play really well now.
Well, I think Lovecraft will always come in and out his stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I just think that wasn't a time when it was really in.
Yeah.
And I think now it would do a little better. But I also think that this is, Sam Neill's obviously Alan Grant, and he's awesome. But also his accent's all over the place. In this movie.
They didn't. The note I said that he never did an accent. He was just speaking.
God, that's some BS right there, because he goes in and out like crazy. But yeah,
he's got that JP money. He don't need that.
Yeah. I was invested in his character in the stories, but there were a couple times, because I'm always picking out accents. I go, all right, he's New Zealand accent. No, he's British. All right, no, he's American now. Okay, all right, maybe he's just all over the place.
Maybe he's traveled the world.
Yeah, he does. I did read that he has 3 homes.
He has
one in
goats,
Australia, New Zealand, and America.
Got a couple goats.
He's got a whole winery, a vineyard, a whole farm. Yeah.
Well, why don't you go visit him and you can talk about In the Mouth of Madness with him?
Oh, man, I would love to hang out with Sam Neill.
We'll get on a plane.
Seems like
get going.
He's actually doing an Australian Western that I kind of want to watch.
I think it's out, right? Or it's coming out?
It's out in Australia now.
Yeah.
It's like a miniseries.
Well, would you see, here's the thing. This is probably, you could probably do a lot more with this in a limited release run and a limited series run on one of the streamers. I just don't know if I want to invest 6 episodes or 8 episodes or 10 episodes into a story that I know is going to end with everyone dying. You know what I mean? Like where there's no hope.
I mean, that's kind of classic H.P. Lovecraft is there's no hope.
Sure.
There's another movie that ends like that that's based on H.P. Lovecraft. That's more specifically a Cthulhu myth H.P. Lovecraft movie, and it ends so bleakly.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Movie is
and
one
I still
thing.
remember like, when you're watching
you're
6
investing,
episodes,
movie you're investing 2.5 hours in.
6 hours of depression.
Yeah, show you're investing a lot more time. Oh, we're gonna watch this tonight. Oh, next episode, can watch that tonight. It's like,
maybe they can glimmer you some hope, but still end on a dour note.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because you also have to have somebody to root for. You always have to have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't think this has to be done exactly, but something like this would be interesting. Like we were talking about.
All right.
Like I think a Stephen King, all his stuff really exists, and he didn't realize.
Well, that was Castle Rock. I mean, I don't want to beat the drum of keeping Castle Rock going, but I really thought that the second season was good.
Oh, sure.
Just kind of.
But I'm talking put Stephen King in it.
Oh, in the movie.
And
I got
you.
you.
Realize you created us, or he realized I created you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be very interesting.
And Goosebumps, the Goosebumps movie that you brought up is a good point as well.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of did it.
And that movie's good.
Yeah. But no, I really like the story. I think that people who might like something like this, that's just kind of weird and off-putting, might like this. I think people that like Evil Dead, if you don't just like it for the blood, but you like it for that kind of weirdness, also might like it.
See, I understand what you're saying with the Evil Dead stuff, but Evil Dead to me is more schlocky, which is why I like it. I didn't get that at all at this.
I get that.
You're talking about. I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about all the original, all the Evil Dead.
All Evil Dead. Yeah. The Necronomicon in and of itself is a Lovecraft invention.
Sure.
Which a lot of people don't talk about. But that kind of that evil is coming out and it can do anything and be anything, and that it kind of slowly messes with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting part of Evil Dead that I know a lot of people aren't all about. A lot of people like it for the schlock or like it for the blood. I like it for all of it, but I think that people might be interested in this. Maybe people like David Lynch, his Twin Peaks, like horror David Lynch, might like this as well.
All right.
I definitely think it's worth checking out, but it's very imperfect.
Well, it's also one of the rare 90s movies that you actually can find, because most of the times we trying to get 90s films, maybe because it's not so independent. It's very difficult to find some of these 90s films that we do.
Yeah, this is able to rent wherever you want to look at your movies. Well, unfortunately, Shudder lists it, but you can't watch it.
Well, remember, we are watching these and doing these episodes in August.
Right.
Come October, it's probably more readily available for people.
Unless you're watching Trick or Treat. And then
what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with Trick or Treat.
Well, I'm just saying, Trick or Treat is always streaming for free until October.
Oh, of course.
And then they take it away.
Of course. Shocker. Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast. You're listening to us now, wherever you're listening to us, drop us a rating, a review, subscribe, all that good stuff. But if you don't know where to find us and you're listening on who knows where, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google, everywhere. Take a look. We're there.
And join us next week as we wrap up our 3rd annual Forgotten Horror and Butler Cries. We're going to be doing a movie from 1971, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Now, I have never seen this movie. I've never heard about this film. The reason why we put it on the list to choose was because I read a couple people and were watching it and they really dug it and they had discovered it. So I put it on the list. Hey, why not? So So now I'm sure now that we put it on the list, it's going to be everywhere because we can't do anything original for us. So.
Stars.com now.
But yeah, that's next week. Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and that will end our Forgotten Horror season and actually end our season 10. So, and then we'll move on to season 11.
All right.
So that's it. What's up?
I like it.
All right. I'm glad you like it.
All right, cool.
All right. We'll see you next week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Horror.
Keep it spooky, y'all. Read any good books lately?
I've seen bad posters lately.
Aw. Yeah.
Poster sinks.